the Mets with that early 2-0 lead. Like, wow, they scored early for DeGrom, and you're thinking, not bad. Now, I didn't love his pitch count early. He was throwing a lot of pitches, and you figure, all right, maybe he can get through 6 or 7, and then he gets to the 1 inning. And not only were they hitting him, like they were hitting him.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, all right, you know what? He gives up the lead. Fine, it's 2-2. Uh-oh. Now they're losing. And you start to think, there's no way they're coming back. And then you get the home run from Robbie Cano. By the way, he's on fire, don't you know? And then before you can, take a breath and say, you know what, they're clawing their way back, Brad Brock's got to go up and give a home run on the first or second pitch, right? I guess it was the second pitch. It's like
5-3 felt like 15-3 in that game.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's exactly what it felt like. So that was just a nightmare, and it was over anyway. With the amount of people that were yelling at us on Twitter and social media about Garrett Cole and the Yankees,
yeah.
I mean, G-Man Choi, I didn't realize this till I read this morning. G-Man Choi's got 3 home runs this year, 2 of them off Garrett Cole. How does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. We've seen those type of, aberrations in baseball before where some guy who's just some light-hitting schmuck ends up dominating a great pitcher. Like Joe McEwing and Randy Johnson comes to mind right off the top of my head. Now, I know that G-Man Choi is a little bit better than Joe McEwing ever was. But, yeah, I mean, it's bizarre. And John Boy, who is the guy who puts out all these baseball videos, he was instrumental in the Astros cheating stuff. He posted something yesterday where it is clear that G-Man Choi sees a slider. He's just smiling at that first slider. And then the next one that Garrett Cole throws to him, he deposits out there in right field. So it was almost like he is just all over him. He's like, you throw me that thing again, and good night. It's just amazing how G-Man Choi has owned Garrett Cole and the home runs that Garrett Cole has given up. I mean, I remember talking about the only flaw with Masahiro Tanaka for many years and how stone cold of a starting pitcher he could be in the biggest situations was, that home run bug. I never thought that we'd be talking about Garrett Cole in the same way. I mean, he is giving to Kiermaier in the upper deck.
Yeah.
I mean, what? I mean, think about this. Zunino to dead straightaway center field in his last start. G-Man Choi, a couple of home runs against Garrett Cole. This is something I did not expect to see. But I don't know how he figures it out. I would expect that he would, because he is someone who is so locked in and so focused and so pays attention to his craft. He's got to be pulling his hair out right now thinking, I mean, this is an insane amount of home runs that I've given up so far in this short season.
And this is not what he or any Yankee fan expected. The way this bump in the road has hit him here, I think every time, and this is why we did the whole thing with the betting and had some fun with it last week, not so fun for us. You feel like every time Garrett Cole goes out, you expect the Yankees to win the game, and that has not been the case of late. And last night, I agree with you. The home runs are concerning. It's one thing, and that, you mentioned Tanaka. As good as Tanaka's always been, you're right. It wasn't only that he gave up the home run, it was he would give up the home run early in the game. And, whether they be solo shots, 2-run shots, you'd sit there and say, if he could just straighten that out, he'd be as dominant as anybody we were seeing, and that's kind of happened to Cole now. Giving up home run after home run. Now, the Yankees should be good enough to overcome that. But at some point, we've sat here and we've lauded them for the next man up mentality, and it has been outstanding. For the last 2 years, it doesn't seem to matter who gets hurt. The Yankees find a way for that next guy to come up and produce. Right now, they're not producing as much as you need them to. And so they either A, have to get healthy, or B, got to figure it out soon. Because while they'll make the playoffs for sure, the fact that the Rays just own them this year is really, it's mind-boggling.
Well, the Rays are much better right now, as the Yankees are currently constructed, which is not a fair statement because we know all the guys that are not around and are rehabbing and are hopefully coming back in a timely manner. But the Rays are just much better. It's almost like they're toying with the Yankees in a way because they've won so many games against them. And I mentioned that G-Man Choi video I saw from John Boy. It's almost like they're laughing at him. I mean, that's how much better they've been than the Yankees so far this year. I still think the Yankees, when healthy, are a much better baseball team, but we haven't seen that. So I just, it's hard to evaluate where they're at. There's not a lot of time left in this regular season. Guys have to come back and have to stay healthy. I mean, that's another problem with the Yankees, is we've seen guys come back. I mean, the most notable, Aaron Judge, he thinks he's fine. He's talking about being 100%, and now he's back on the IL, and it's going to take double the time it did the first time for him to come back. Guys have to come back, stay healthy, and produce, which is not a given. It's not some sort of panacea that these guys come off the IL and then all of a sudden the team is whole and great and kicking everybody's ass again. But right now it is a very, very frustrating situation for the Yankees. And I still thought that they were going to come back last night when Luke Voit hit the home run.
Yep.
I mean, that is a difference. You know, you're talking about 5-3 feeling like 15-3 in the Met game. I thought that the Yankees were going to have some sort of special comeback against that Rays bullpen, which has been exceptional so far in the season. But I really thought that. And Luke Voit, I mean, I know the Yankees have had a rough stretch here, but without him, they may lose every game 10-0. And he has carried this offense in a way that I didn't think he was capable of. And by the way, we forgot to mention that, you know, Tyler Glasnow no hits the Yankees through 5 yesterday, like just completely dominant. You want to talk about a terrible trade? I mean, think about Glasnow and Austin Meadows came over from the Pirates for Chris Archer in a deadline deal a couple years ago.
And we thought at the time the Pirates got the better of that deal with Archer.
Right, because he had years of control, and they went in on him. It was the perfect guy to go and get when they were on the cusp of a wild card. And Tyler Glasnow looks like a Cy Young candidate every time that the Yankees see him, and last night was no exception, as he was just completely in control, mowing them down. This was a bad baseball day in New York all around. It's a pretty obvious statement. And the trade deadline was just, I mean, Joe's reaction, I don't know if you heard it.
I did not.
On Joe and Evan of the Todd Frazier. It was just classic Joe, you know, as Evan gets the news. Because Joe, if nobody told Joe anything, he wouldn't know anything, right? That's the thing. He has to be told everything that happens. So Evan tells him, he's like, what? Like the classic Beningo, what? And then says, Todd Frazier, of all guys, Todd Frazier? Frazier? What are you bringing him back for? And I think it's because probably the best answer is that J.D. Davis is more hurt than they were letting on at the beginning. But still, it's like, it drives you crazy because it's like, oh, Todd, Brody Van Wagenen wants to bring Todd Frazier in to give a boost to the clubhouse. Like, stop. The team stinks. You're done. I mean, even if you squeak into the playoffs, you're not going anywhere.
They're very average.
Like, what a boost to the clubhouse. Good clubhouse guy. Like Todd Frazier, somehow his presence is going to get Pete Alonso out of a slump. Now watch Pete Alonso hit 10 home runs in 10 days after this. But I don't know. Yesterday it was a gross New York baseball day from start to finish.
And I'm glad you brought up Alonso because he just seems lost. And I know he's had a couple of multi-home run games this year, but by and large, he's really done nothing. I mean, the batting average is what it is. He's been okay at first base. Yesterday obviously hurt them for sure, but he has been, you know, and you feel bad for him because he's such a good kid. He had such a great season last year. Seems like he does all the right things. It's just not there this year. And I don't know if the book is out on him. I don't know if pitchers seeing him this new time around has been that big of a difference. But it almost, you know, I mentioned it was either yesterday or Friday, I forget. I mentioned the fact that after a recent strikeout, he goes back to the dugout and he was trying to pull the helmet apart. Like, you can see the pressure he's putting on himself. And even he had one ground out in the game yesterday.
Yeah. I saw this, and you saw him. It was the third out, and he had worked the count to 3-1, and he got a good pitch on 3-2, and then he grounded out to third. You could see him after he gets thrown out at first. He's just, like, completely dismayed with his current situation. It's written all over his face.
Yeah.
And baseball can do that to you, as we know. I mean, it can just rip your guts out. And a guy like him who was riding the wave last year. And the reason why I don't think it's so much that the league figured him out is things the way they are in baseball these days. Guys, it doesn't take a full year for the league to adjust to you. And he was consistent throughout the entire season last year. There's so much video. Everybody's watching everything. They would have found that secret to shut him down at some point last year. It was a full season of dominance with him. And I think this year it's more him. It's more a mental thing with where he's at. That's the only explanation. And those are the hardest things. Like, you can't, it's not like a key you can go into the clubhouse and find and unlock the answer to why the hell you're so bad. And right now, I mean, it spirals too. I mean, it becomes this snowball effect. And right now, he is in the worst of it.
Yeah, no, there's no question about it. And, they had back-to-back innings where they were up 2-0, where they get leadoff doubles. They can't, they don't move the runners over. They can't get the run in. That certainly hurt them yesterday. So you're right. Bad baseball day. But I will say, Robbie Cano, a couple more hits, nice home run.
But I've told you before.
I'm just kidding with you.
No, I know, but it's a fair point because I thought he was completely cooked, and he's showing that he's not. But it's even more frustrating when he's good, when the team's bad, because he was, and I know that's completely unfair to him, and he's still got something left in the tank, and hats off, and he came back. He had a short stint on the IL, and he came back. He still is hitting. And I thought he'd come back and be terrible after he was hot. And I was like, all right, well, that's the end of it. Now he's done and he's checked out. And he has not been checked out. He's got every reason to be checked out. For crying out loud, he's still got years on his contract at guaranteed money. He's got every reason to just mail it in. And he has not. So I will give him credit for that. But from my perspective, when you bring in a guy like that attached to Edwin Diaz, and the impact is supposed to be immediate, and this is supposed to be a playoff team, it's even more frustrating to see him hit and the team be so bad. So he's in a lose-lose situation with the way that deal went down. But, I guess it makes you feel a little bit better about things in that particular trade. But it can't, because it's not like there's any future with him. That's the thing. If Edwin Diaz somehow figured it out, that'd be a different story, but I don't believe he is ever going to figure it out.
It doesn't seem like it, not here, that's for sure. And even, with the weekend he had, as we know, Friday was good, and then we know what happened, after that. Even yesterday he goes in, he's hitting 100, I think he hit 100 once, but he's hitting 99 on the gun. He had that swing and miss. And you sit there and say, where was this? Where was this the other day? And maybe it's what you point out. Maybe it's the high leverage situations. I don't know. He is a puzzling pitcher to watch. There's no question about it. And they're bad. Right now they're an average to below average team. They're 5 games under 500. It's still right in front of them, but you can't keep losing. You can't have 4 and 5 game losing streaks. You just can't. And especially when you've got games within the 4 and 5 game losing streaks that you give away. They're killer losses, and that's why this team is going to basically be fighting for their playoff lives the rest of the month, September 1st, by the way. Yeah. So here we go. They've got 30 days to figure it out. I don't know that they will, because their pitching is not exactly great, and they're an incomplete ball club right now, but it's what they are. And, it's you're right, bad baseball day for us in New York yesterday.
Yeah, if Todd Frazier comes in and lights the fire that this team has been missing for most of the year, that's going to be just amazing to me, because I don't necessarily believe in that stuff. I really don't. I don't think that a guy who is just an okay baseball player that gives you a moment here or there, but is a career whatever, 230, 240 hitter, if even that, can come into a clubhouse and everybody just feels better about themselves. I just don't think that stuff necessarily happens.
See, I do think. I would think, knowing you the way I know you now, I would think positivity does spread, and I think that is a good thing. The issue I have with it is I don't know that this team lacked it. It seems like a good, likable bunch. It doesn't seem like you got a bunch of bad guys on this team where they need that influence. I look around, you can pick out every position. You tell me the bad guy on this team. It seems like they're having a good time. Even Cano, who's the old veteran, he's always smiling in the dugout. He seems like he's been a good presence for the young guys. Alonso seems like a blast. McNeil and Davis, all good. DeGrom doesn't say a bad thing. Is there anyone on that? Does Conforto say anything? Nimmo seems like he's thrilled just to be there. So I don't necessarily know you needed that. While I think it can be a good thing, I don't know that this team lacked that.
Yeah, and speaking of DeGrom saying stuff, I end up watching the postgame, and for whatever reason, these Zoom press conferences, when I sit there and I watch them in their entirety, they just annoy the hell out of me more than any other media session.
Because technically the way they are, or because of the questions?
It seems it's not really technical. Well, yesterday was a double thing. It was technically and the questions, because one guy joined late and then asked this generic question. That was the first question to be. What happened there in the 6th inning was the first question, right? And then 4 questions later, some guy comes in and goes, I missed the beginning. What happened in the 6th inning? And he's just like, And I'm thinking, if I'm Jacob deGrom, I've won back-to-back Cy Youngs, all right? I've been dominating this crap Marlins team for the last 3 starts. I had a bad inning, all right? What do you want? Can you just let it go? How about that? And he was looking at his fingers, by the way, a little bit where the blister was the last time, and I thought, is that a factor? And maybe that's why they were asking the question, but hey, what happened in the 6th inning? What was he going to say? Like, you know what? I was feeling a little Tommy Johnish.
I got to be
That's
honest.
what was going on.
You know what, though? First question I'd ask, too. You look so good. Because here's the thing about that 6th inning. They didn't only hit him, Greg. They just smashed him. The home run was a blast. The opposite field shot to right. You're like, whoa. Like, it was all of a sudden like they knew what was coming, and they were on him, whereas they weren't for the first 5 innings.
And speaking of what was coming, another guy in a post-game news conference in Garrett Cole last night, he brought up the tip and pitches thing.
Yes.
That was brought up.
Yep.
So now that's where we are. I mean, and that is like the last resort when a great pitcher doesn't understand when he's got good stuff. Like Steven Matz, who was not a great pitcher, but Steven Matz I felt great. I thought I was executing. I don't understand. And the tip and pitches thing ends up coming up.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.